The Tennis Gambling Podcast and the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Nordic Fantasy. You can win up to 325 times your entry with their new Pick 8. Sign up with the promo code SGPN to claim your special pick and a first-time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash on Nordic Fantasy, promo code SGPN. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. Get the best data-driven props and picks from Rhythm. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. And welcome, everybody, to the Tennis Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It is currently Friday afternoon, roughly 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time on June 7th. I'm your host, always, Scott Reichel, once again going solo for this pod. Should be a fun but very, very short episode because we're officially at the end of the women's tournament and the men's tournaments because we have one match left. We have the final for the women's taking place on Saturday and the men's final taking place on Sunday. For this episode, we're going to cover the women's final between Swiatek and Paolini. So we're going to preview that matchup. Spoiler, though, there is one massive favorite, and I'm not really expecting Paolini to pull off the upset. But we're going to talk about the match and try to find some valuable angles that are worth betting on. Either way, before we get into any of the actual recap of the semifinals, do want to remind you once again that we have a lot of great overall merch on the SGPN merch store. We have Tennis Gambling Podcast shirts, hoodies, and mugs, so make sure to check out the merch store and also make sure to once again check it out for other podcasts besides the tennis show, as we do have a lot of great overall playoff content going on right now for the NBA playoffs and for the NHL and for the Stanley Cup playoffs. So make sure to check out the Hockey Gambling Podcast, and they also have a current contest going on for the Stanley Cup Finals because it has not started yet. Make sure you end up joining the Hockey Gambling Podcast Stanley Cup contest, which has a grand prize of $100 cash and a $100 gift card. So make sure to go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Stanley Cup to enter. It is free to enter, so keep that in mind. There is a contest that's free to join in which you can win $200. Plus, a reminder, hit the like button, subscribe for this show, and hit the bell so you'll get notified whenever we do have another episode. Also, a reminder that if you do not listen to the podcast on YouTube, first of all, you can. It's a live stream, so if you want to pop in for actual live commentary, you can. And also a reminder that if you are still on Apple or Spotify, don't forget to rate and review the podcast. Have not seen many ratings lately, so it would be nice if we could get a couple of those. But I have noticed the subscriber count's going up. The overall likes and comments on YouTube have been solid, so thank you if you have been doing so. If not, then you can, and I will definitely respond. Either way, though, point is, before we get into any of the actual preview for the women's final, do want to recap the actual lock and dog picks for the last episode. This one will be the recap for the men's semis that happened today on Friday. As a reminder, for the women's semis, we ended up splitting. Did win the lock, though. Bit of a lock run recently for us, as we had Goff team total under. That got there, and then lost the dog. We were torn between Paolini moneyline and Paolini over 2.5 sets. And we chose poorly. Ended up going with Paolini over 2.5 sets instead. That did not get there, but she did win the match. So hopefully at least some of you took her on the money line. As for the men's semifinal matchups, ended up continuing the lock streak. Did win, plus money also. We had an over 3.5 set parlay with the Sinner match and the Zverev match. Got there as easily as possible. You saw them split the first 2 sets in both matches. So ended up really having a sweat-free winner there. Of course, for the dog, did double down on the over 3.5 sets in the Ruud match, but we did pick Ruud to win, and that did not work out, as Zverev did win in 4. So either way, though, Ruud ended up, I don't want to say he got injured, but he ended up winning the first set and then kind of fell apart after that. Not going to go too in detail to those 2 matches because I want to save that for the men's final preview, which will be tomorrow. But point is, ended up winning the lock, so we're going to try to keep the lock run rolling. And for the dog, ended up losing, as we thought that Ruud was alive to win it. Thought both would win a set. They both did. And then Ruud's level, unfortunately, dipped pretty heavily in the, I'd say, 3rd and 4th sets. So either way, ended up splitting, and we'll look for a sweep here on the Friday episode. Now, for the women's semifinal recap, do want to not spend too much time on it because both matches sucked. Swiatek ended up destroying Goff. What else is new? She's dominated Goff in their respective careers. I believe it is now 10-1 head-to-head. I think it might be 11-1. I have to quickly pull that up, but the point is Goff is really no threat to Swiatek at all, ever. It's 11-1, actually. And I believe all 11 wins have been in straight sets. So, yeah, Goff, congrats on being number 2 in the world, but I know you also won the U.S. Open last year. but you are really just not a threat to Swiatek most of the time. I know she ended up beating her in Cincinnati, which was kind of the shocking upset there. She won in 3 on her home soil, but in reality, Swiatek's better than everyone else, and Goff, as number 2 in the world, is getting smacked. I don't want to compare it exactly to the Sharapova-Serena rivalry, but it's getting those type of vibes where I know that Sharapova did at least win a couple of big matches. I think she won her first Wimbledon title against Serena, I think. Point is, though, at the end of that rivalry, Serena won every time, and I feel like we're approaching that, and Goff hasn't even had that much success. She ended up beating her in the Masters 1000 event in Cincinnati, but that's it. They faced off multiple times in the French Open, and Swiatek destroyed her in every match. Once again, not winning is one thing. Not winning a set in 11 of the 12 meetings is embarrassing, and that's where we're at. So Goff has to drastically improve her game. Swiatek won comfortably, was down a break early in the second set, but immediately got 2 breaks back-to-back and ended up holding it out, ended up serving it out to win 6-4 in the final set. But either way, though, point is that match sucked. We thought it would, and at least we made money on that match because we had the Goff team total under 7.5. For the other match, I questioned why Andreeva was favored, and I was right because Andreeva was definitely not the best player in that match. She got destroyed. And I said some comments in the match about the match that might have been a really, really bad take because I did say I thought the match would be one of the best matches of the tournament, and I thought it would be an absolute war. Yeah, that didn't happen, as Andreeva won 4 games in the entire match. 4. She did worse than Goff did in the semis, but the point is Paolini won comfortably. Andreeva seemed a bit overwhelmed by the moment and maybe a bit fatigued after the 3-set marathon against Sabalenka in the quarterfinals, I mean. But the point is Andreeva completely just no-showed the match. Paolini buried her, and you ended up seeing a pretty ugly pair of matches for the semis of a Grand Slam event on Thursday. And based on where the lines are located for Saturday, it might not get much better. Let's put it that way. Before we get into any of the actual preview for the final, once again, not going to spend too much time with this episode, so apologies if you're expecting a longer episode. The men's one should be a lot longer because I think that the match is actually more competitive. I know that Alcaraz is like minus 320 in the final against Zverev, but that's better than about minus 2,000, which is what Swiatek is, which is what a Swiatek is. So we're going to talk about that in a second. But before we get to any of that, though, do want to remind you once again that we are brought to you by Underdog Fantasy because Underdog Fantasy has a lot of great extra options for the NBA Finals because the Pick 8 is now live. Create entries up to 8 picks, and Underdog will automatically double flex entries, so you can miss up to 2 picks and still win your entry. With more picks, you have more ways to win. The excitement is higher than ever. The best part, you can win it to 325 times your original amount. You can now use specials and boosts on all flexed entries, and I do think Game 1, I actually had Josh Green higher, half a 3-pointer, which I gave out on this show, and he waited until the last minute of the entire game. In fact, it was garbage time. It was the only 3-pointer he attempted in the entire game, and he drilled it with 58 seconds left. So definitely nice to get that one. I think for the second game, I'd look for higher on, it's either Tatum rebounds or Luka rebounds. I'll go Tatum rebounds on this one, assuming it's at 9.5. I think that him and Luka should each get 10 in Game 2. Point is, though, I do like the higher rebounds for Tatum, if that is an option, at 9.5. Don't forget to, once again, take advantage of this opportunity before it's gone. Sign up with the promo code SGPN to claim your special pick and a first-time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash on our fantasy promo code SGPN. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Gambling Podcast. Just finished recapping the women's semifinal matchups from Thursday. Now it's time to preview the women's final for Friday. You have Swiatek, which is pretty much not a surprise to anybody, against Paolini, which is a surprise. And a brief side note, Paolini overachieved because not only did she make the final in the singles for the French Open, she also made the final in doubles, which is kind of crazy. Now, I'm not saying she's going to win the French Open singles title, but there is a chance she can actually go for the double where she can win the singles and doubles title in the same event, which I can't even think of the last time that's happened. Probably Serena Williams, if I had to guess. It's really just rare to have somebody who wins both, and that is a possibility in theory. Do I think Paolini is going to win this match? Absolutely not. I didn't say she was going to, but it is pretty cool that she ended up making the final in both the singles and the doubles. I think that's pretty sweet. Either way, though, point is the odds for the actual match. Once again, Iga, massive favorite, between minus 1,500 and minus 2,000. Paolini is around plus 900. Shop around if you want to take her on the money line. I'm not going to. But if you want to, you probably can find like maybe even 11 to 1 if you shop around. For the game spread, you have Swiatek at around minus 6.5 games. Paolini is plus 6.5 at plus money. The over-under is between 18 and 17, so shop around. 17.5, the under is minus 120. The over is even money. For the team total, Paolini's team total is over-under 5.5 games, and the under is juiced at minus 120. Iga, under 12.5 games, is minus 250. Over 12.5 games is plus 195. Iga in straight sets is minus 400, and Paolini to win a set is plus 300. Over 2.5 sets is plus 375. In other words, why is Paolini even bothering to show up for this match? She should take a nap. That's basically what the odds are telling you. They're telling you that Iga's going to win, and Paolini should take the opportunity to, I don't know, get ready for doubles, I guess, because Iga's going to probably destroy her. The question is, how badly is she going to destroy her? Because she has to win this match 6-3, 6-2 if she's going to actually cover the 6.5, or potentially with a bagel. We'll see what happens. But to go through the path of both players so far, I am going to give Paolini respect, and at least the respect she deserves, which is going through the actual path because she has surprised a lot of people. She's playing good tennis before this, and she ended up carrying that over into the French Open. So to go through the actual path, beat Baptiste in the first round in straight sets, then had 3 straight 3-setters, so a couple of marathons, but she was able to dominate the third set in the previous 2 final deciding sets because she won 6-0 and 6-1. Then she had a marathon against Rybakina and an upset win where she won the first set, dropped the second, then won the third 6-4, and then buried Andreeva 6-3, 6-1 in the last match in the semis. So once again, good for her. Also in the women's doubles. So congrats to her for making it to the final, win or lose in the singles and doubles. I actually think her and Irani are going to win doubles, but that's just my opinion. Either way, though, point is for Swiatek's path. Yeah, we know that she's been dominant with the exception of the Osaka match. Osaka's stock kind of went through the roof from this event because she almost beat Swiatek, and nobody else has won more than 4 games in a set. So Iga has been on the warpath, beat Goff, who's now the number 2 player in the world, 6-2, 6-4, beat Vondrousova in straight sets, only dropping 2 games, won her round of 16 match with a double bagel, which is insane. Ended up beating Buskova in straight sets and ended up once again having the marathon against Osaka and won the first match of the event easily, 6-1, 6-2. She also did win in Rome without dropping a set, beat Sabalenka in that one, beat Goff in that one, beat Keys in that one, beat Kerber in that one, all in straight sets. Iga's just killing people. I got nothing else to add. I think Iga's going to win in straight sets. The problem is trying to find value. And I do think for the sake of the matchup, I would lean to the actual spread at 6.5. Paolini maybe can make one set interesting, maybe a 6-4 in there, but I do think Iga is going to end up winning a set, potentially 6-1 and change, so I don't really see much value on Paolini. Now, maybe she can surprise some people, and maybe she can actually make one set competitive, but I don't see her really doing much more than that. Iga's been here before. Paolini's in the biggest match of her life. I do wonder about fatigue as well, because she's in singles and doubles. It's, in my opinion, offensive that the line is this big, but I understand it. The idea that a Grand Slam final has roughly a minus 2,000 favorite is absurd. But in this case, I don't want to say I can't disagree with it. I think Iga should be like minus 1,000. I think 2,000 is a bit egregious, but the point is she's been cruising past everybody besides Osaka over the last couple of weeks, not just in the French Open. I see a pretty straightforward win here. If I had to guess a scoreline, 6-3, 6-1, if I had to guess, but I think Iga's going to win probably comfortably. I'll lean to the under. I'll lean to the team total under for Paolini as well. I feel better about the actual spread because in theory there could be like a 7-5 set and then maybe Paolini just runs out of gas and Swiatek ends up burying her like 6-1 in the second set. So Paolini would go over her team total but would not cover the spread. So I think Iga's going to win, just simply put. I have a couple of plays prepared in the player prop section at the end of the show for the lock and dog, but trying to think if there's anything else I'm really tempted by. There is a fun prop, which I will not bet, which is one of the most degen props I've ever seen. It's the length of the match. In terms of minutes, the over-under for minutes is 75.5, minus 115 on both sides. It's on Offshore Book, so if you have it, then you know what book I'm talking about. If not, then I guess you're not going to bet it. You can bet on the minutes of the match at 75.5. I'm not going to do that, but I think Ego wins it comfortably, so you can read in between the lines there. Besides that, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that's really worth talking about, because I was looking at the overall aces. I see the aces combined are a 2.5 at minus 165 on the under. I actually agree with it. I'm going to go with the under. Iga's not done well with aces recently, so I do think you're looking at what should be a lot of rallies. Both players not known for their serving at all. I think you're going to see pretty much maybe one ace combined, maybe two combined between them. I do not expect either player to even get the two in this matchup, so I don't mind the under 2.5 combined aces at minus 165. Besides that, I don't see much else. Once again, it's pretty difficult to find value when one player is around minus 2,000 on the money line. So I got to kind of get creative here. I'm going to save my creative props for the post break. But once again, apologies if you were expecting a bit more of a case for Paolini. I don't see it. If you want to take her, then maybe take her with the games, and you can disagree with me if you want. We'll see what happens. I think Ego wins comfortably, though. And I think Paolini will eventually win a Grand Slam title this week, but not in singles, in doubles with Hirani. Either way, though, that's going to do it for the actual preview of the women's final. Now it's time for the lock and dog picks. But for into that, do remind you once again that we are brought to you by Rhythm, because Rhythm allows you to have a lot more of an edge with NBA player props. Because if you are betting on player props, then you need to get Rhythm, because Rhythm gives you a menu of the best player props for every single playoff game, making it easy to go through and to find the best props to put your money on in seconds. Rhythm's predictions are backed by over 3 years of data and a team of data scientists and quants that have focused on fine-tuning the algorithm to give you the best chance at winning. Rhythm pairs its predictions with player prop graphs so you can feel more confident with your picks, whether it involves DFS or even bets. From superstars to bench players, Rhythm finds the best player prop lines, all backed by AI data, without you having to constantly scroll through sportsbooks. Rhythm also allows you to create your own custom NBA models, so you can get AI-backed money line, spread, and total picks for every playoff game. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportscamppockets.com/rhythm, sportscamppockets.com/RITHMM. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Gambling Podcast. Just finished previewing the Women's French Open Final taking place on Saturday. Now it's time for the actual lock and dog picks. Mentioned before, it's tough to find value when you have this big of a favorite, so I did go with some niche props. For the lock, I'm going with Paolini under 2.5 breaks at minus 163. It's expensive. I get it. I know he took an expensive player prop, coincidentally breaks, in the Pericard match about a week ago or 2 weeks ago, and we won. So I'm willing to lay a bit of juice in this case if I do like the prop quite a bit. And Paolini, I think that the odds of her breaking 3 times in this match is pretty slim. Swiatek's not known for being a great server, but recently she's actually defended the serve quite well. She's only been broken 2 times in her last 4 matches combined, and now she's got to get broken 3 times in one match. I don't see that happening. I think Iga's going to win comfortably, so you might not have many games to work with if you are going to expect breaks in this match for Paolini. But the idea that Swiatek has only been broken 2 times combined in the last 4 rounds against very good competition, and now she has to avoid getting broken 3 times in this match, I think 163 is a good price. And if you want to even go back further to the previous tournament that Iga was in, Iga's been broken less than 3 times in 11 of her last 12 matches. 11 of 12. So I think 2.5 breaks is absurd. I think that Paolini might break once or twice, but if you are expecting, let's say a score line of 6-2, 6-2. Let's say Iga wins comfortably, you're in and out of the match in about an hour and 5 minutes. Point is, there's not many games to work with because you're picking Paolini to only win 4 games. So with that being the case, that means that you basically need Iga to not blow her out, and you need Paolini to actually threaten in a lot of these rallies. And it's going to be a bit of an issue because they have faced off 2 times in the head-to-head. They were dated, I'll admit it. But in both matches, in the 2022 French Open and in a Futures event in 2018, Paolini won a total of 3 games in both matches. 3 games in the entire match both times. So I'm not expecting Paolini to win many games here. And with that being the case, I don't expect her to break that much. But 2.5 breaks at minus 163, I think is a very good price. I think DraftKings at minus 165, but I shopped around. I think Bet365 at 163 instead. So give me the juicy lock at minus 163. This line feels too high to me. I think she's going to break maybe one time. Give me the under 2.5 breaks for Paolini at minus 163 as the lock. For the dog, I am going to once again go to Paolini, but I am going to go with a serve prop. Give me the under 1.5 double faults at plus 110. Very difficult to find plus money plays I actually liked in this matchup, so I had to find something that I thought was a bit niche that had some value. So Paolini, when it comes to double faults, is actually not double faulted that often over the last couple rounds. She's had less than 2 double faults in 3 of the last 4 matches, and the total in this game, once again, is at 17.5. I don't know how many service games she's going to have in this match, because if you end up expecting Swiatek to destroy her and you end up getting 16 games, that's basically 8 service games. That's not a lot to work with. I think you're looking at a player who maybe has had double faulting issues in the past, but not recently. And I do think that with the number at 1.5 at plus money, that line does feel a bit, I think, large, actually, considering the fact it's at plus money when she's at less than this in 3 of the last 4 matches. So if Iga ends up destroying her, that should result in less overall service games for Paolini to, in theory, double fault in, which definitely benefits the under. But I think 1.5 at plus 110 when she's gone under in 3 of 4 is a good value play for what should be a very lopsided match. So once again, the lock and dog for the women's final between Swiatek and Paolini. The lock's going to be on Paolini under 2.5 breaks of serve at minus 163 on Bet365, and the dog will be on Paolini under 1.5 double faults at plus 110 also on Bet365. We're back once again for the men's final, which we'll be doing an episode on tomorrow. Until then, find me on the NBA show, find me on the MLB show, find me on the WNBA show. Until next time, good luck to all of you and all of your bets. Bye, everyone.